What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Like I said last video, we are starting on suspension today, and in this box is our front suspension. Now you might be thinking this box is a little small, and that's because it is. This is basically a weld yourself kit, and we're doing long travel if you haven't figured that out yet. Obviously this isn't solid axle parts here. So this kit right here is from Blazeland. I know some of you probably are familiar with them. They're pretty well known in the Toyota long travel community, I guess you could say. But this is their weld yourself kit. So they have a few different options. They got the complete arms that you can buy from them, or you can do it yourself for way cheaper. And I figured it'd be an awesome opportunity for me to show you guys how this entire kit goes together. So let's get this opened up. Oh, look at that. That's a nice looking little piece there. I think that's the extension for the steering. But either way, let's get all this opened up. I'll show you guys all the parts and pieces for it, and then we'll get to cutting some control arms apart and welding them back together. So here's all the parts and pieces that we need to do a long travel on this IFS. So this is the upper, basically this is an extension that bolts onto the upper control arm. And then the lower control arm we're going to basically cut and then extend 3.5 inches using those blocks and all this plate here. And then there's fixtures for cutting just to make sure you get everything cut nice and straight here. And then rods to go through the lower control arm while you're welding it. And then some hardware, some brake lines, some clips here, and then like I said, the extensions for the steering. So pretty simple, honestly. I'm going to show you guys. I know it might look like a lot if you're not really familiar with fabrication stuff, but I'm going to show you guys how it's really not that bad to do this weld it yourself kit. If you got even just a little bit of welding experience, it should be pretty easy for you guys to figure out. So what we're going to do first is get this thing in the air. We got to obviously get the control arms off, and then we're going to get those sandblasted because we got to do welding. Actually, we don't have to weld on the upper, just the lower. Like I said, the upper bolts together, but we're going to get those sandblasted because we're going to powder coat them anyway. So let's get this thing torn down, get these control arms off, and get to work. All right, step one, we got the jigs and this plate welded on to keep everything in alignment when we cut this apart. So what these jigs are is you bolt them on with this big all thread piece here on both sides, and it's got the cut lines here. So we'll just use a Sawzall and we'll cut through that, and then we'll know we'll have a nice straight cut right where it needs to be to weld these on. And then you just saw we tack welded this bar on the back here. That just keeps everything in alignment so that we can take these jigs off and tack weld those pieces into place and to lengthen this arm. So like I said, we'll grab the Sawzall, cut that, and then we'll grab these pieces here, and this is what will basically extend that arm. And then all this plate here will go over the top of it to strengthen everything back up. All right guys, lower A-arms are complete and welded out. We're just letting those cool off. You want to make sure they're completely cooled before we pull off this, basically this strut here. So hopefully everything stayed where it should. Now we're going to move to the upper. Like I said, this is basically a bolt-on extension for the upper arm, so we're not going to do any cutting on that. I'm going to show you what we got to do. So basically, this is what we're trying to accomplish on the first step. So you're going to take these pieces here. Basically, you want to get these in, they're tabbed, so you just stick them in their slots there, and then you'll bolt these plates here. You want two of these together because one acts as a spacer. So we're basically right now we're trying to locate the position for this. This isn't tabbed at all, so it's gonna go on the front like that. I already got this one tacked in place. So what we're gonna do is, like I said, bolt two of those together on there, and then this is tabbed right there into there. So we'll locate that right there, and then we'll bolt this front 3 bolts in, and then we can tack that piece, and then I also tack those in place. So that is what we're looking for right there. So we got everything located and tacked together. So now we'll weld those tabs there, and we'll weld these tabs here first, and then we'll go through and weld there, there, and then same on this side as well. Come down and weld down in here. And then these tabs here are gonna sit against that control arm, so we're gonna want to grind those welds flush, and then these will be done once they're welded out. All right guys, the moment of truth. We got to measure. I measured from bushing to bushing. So as long as that's right about 9 3/8, we should be good to go. Let's grab tape measure and let's see what we're at here. Look at that. That is just a skosh over 9 3/8. And then this one, let's see, right there. Honestly, that's right at 9 3/8. And then these are, that's basically what we should be looking like for the uppers. So we got that, and then we got these plates here. So I'll show you how these mount. Let's just do a quick test mock-up, and then we'll pull the bushings out on these lowers. I got new bushings for those. Obviously, we can't powder coat with rubber in there. They will melt. So let's get these bushings out. We'll get these sandblasted, get all this sandblasted, and get all this powder coated. All right, this is a real test. Is it going to fit? Oh yeah, look at that. That fits perfect. So what we got here, this plate basically goes inside and lines up with these holes, and then this goes on the outside and sandwiches all this together. So should be plenty strong. Let's throw a few bolts in here, get it kind of in place, bolted together, and make sure all my holes line up. That's number one. We got to make sure. We might have to. Oh, looks like we got to drill these holes out a little bit in the control arm. They're a little bit small. So now you can see how this thing mounts. So top plate, the whole bottom structure goes underneath and it all sandwiches together. And then this is the ball joint. And there's actually 2 locations you can see. We can either mount it forward or we can scoot it back a little bit. So once we get it together, I mean, you got some adjustment there for alignment issues. So we're looking good. Let's get this off and start sandblasting and get all this stuff powder coated. Well, all these parts are sandblasted and ready for some powder coat. Now, one thing that can help the powder stick to the parts in the hard to get areas is a little bit of heat in the part. So we're gonna throw these parts in the oven for probably 20 minutes just to do a little pre-bake cycle. We'll pull them out and we'll spray them at about 150 degrees. Like I said, it helps with the hard to get areas. Now I am running the Royal Coats RC2 powder coating gun, which has been working so much better than my previous Redline. I don't suspect any issues with it, but like I said, preheat never hurts anything. Now, if you guys are in the market for powder, definitely check out Prismatic Powders. It's where I source all my powders from. They have an amazing selection of powders. They ship same day. You get it in a couple days in the US, and they're just amazing powders. Like I said, head over to prismaticpowders.com for all your powders. Well, we are all back together and looking super good. I love the stance of this long travel. This is 3.5 inches wider than the rear now. We do have plans, don't worry, we do have plans for the rear and it's not spacers, but either way, we are looking good here. So we got all the steering on. Obviously, this isn't complete. We need to tear this back down. We got a bunch more powder coating to do. We got shocks, we got CV axles, torsion bars, we got a bunch more stuff to do, but I wanted to get this thing on the ground, sitting on its own weight, just to kind of see how it looks. So the next video, we're gonna tear this thing all back apart, completely rebuild the front end, and like I said, shocks, CV axles, torsion bars, and brakes, and a few other things. Get this front end 100%. So as far as how this kit goes together, honestly, it's very well laid out and very well put together. All the plate fit really nice. All the jigs worked out perfect to where you cut the arms, everything lines up perfectly when it goes back together. So honestly, if you guys know how to weld at all, I think you could probably put this kit together. It's really pretty simple to do. Now, if you're interested in purchasing one of these kits, I'll have the contact info for Blazeland down in the description box for you guys to make it easy. And one more thing about this kit, it's under $800. That's right, under $800 for this weld it yourself kit. So you can get into some long travel for very cheap. Obviously, there's a few other things you got to do, like shocks, torsion bars, and CV axles and whatnot, but For the kit itself, under 800 bucks, you cannot beat that. So like I said, next episode is gonna be exciting. We're gonna tear this thing back apart and basically rebuild all the hubs and powder coat all the brakes and hubs and do new brakes and install some CV axles, some new shocks, some new torsion bars. It's gonna be a lot of fun, so definitely stay tuned for that video. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. I hope you enjoyed this one. Why don't you go smash that thumbs up button, comment, subscribe. We'll catch you in the next one.